talk directly to the pub owners who've been recently turning away healthy, unjabbed customers who are willing to part with their hard-earned cash, and they've been turning them away because they didn't have the fascist COVID passes. How does it feel now that the government can determine your opening hours? To those who own businesses in the hospitality sector, how does an 8 p.m. curfew sound to you? How's that going to affect your bottom line? I don't have any sympathy for those who have enforced the COVID vaccine passport discrimination policies. I do have sympathy for those businesses who resisted it, however. But to those who went along with it, you decided to turn your back on the very people who last year supported your right to remain open during the lockdown. But you took the government money to stay closed, and you accepted and adopted vaccine passports. You helped to enforce this tyranny. You did the bidding of the tyrants as a result. Again, to those who didn't comply, I salute you. But to those who turned away the unjabbed, as if they were unclean, feral, disease-carrying lepers, how does it feel now that you have to close at 8 p.m.? You get what you deserve when you collaborate with evil. We told you that the only way out of this was for all of us to unite together and refuse to comply. That's all the Irish people had to do. That's all the people of the world had to do. You want the face mask mandates to go away? Fine, stop wearing them, stop enforcing them. You want COVID passports to go away? Don't enforce them. Don't download the app. You want the restrictions on the number of people allowed in your business or in your home to stop? Just don't go along with any of it. You want curfews to end? Don't close your business at 8 p.m. If every business owner does the same thing, the police can't shut them all down. You want this COVID power and money grab scam to end? Simple. Stop getting tested. Stop taking injections and turn off the mainstream news media. Don't pay any fines. Resist en masse in large numbers and the entire charade will collapse. Simple, easy strategy, and it's totally free. But the problem appears to be, over the past 20 months, that it's not that a massive amount of people are afraid of COVID, because that's simply only about 20 to 30% of the population anyway. The problem is the majority who are complying because they're just going along to get along. It's easier to just do it, right? To business owners out there, do you understand that the government actually has no right to determine how you operate your business, how you run your private business affairs? They have no right to regulate how many people can be in your premises and who you're allowed to serve. They never had the right to do that. Your business is being sabotaged slowly. The population at large allowed them to set the precedent in a monumental, never-before-seen power grab last year. They took you from 2 weeks to flatten the curve all the way to refuse permission to anyone who doesn't take a regular schedule of big pharma injections. Booster injections that expire every, 6 months? Requiring repeat doses just so a person can access basic, inalienable human rights and freedoms. A medical subscription service in order to take part in society, lest you be ostracized like a pariah. That's a long way to go in 20 months. You chose profits over morals. The government, like a mafia, shut you down last year and throughout much of the beginning of this year, and they prevented you from doing any business. They kept you quiet with financial supports, and you took them. And when they finally allowed you to reopen, they told you to continue with absurd operating regulations in your premises, which you know full well prevent you from achieving the same level of profitability you could before the scamdemic began. You kowtowed to the government's demands and the crumbs they offered you as conditions of your reopening, which are actually designed to slowly strangle your business over time. Your pubs and restaurants are unable to function properly, but so desperate you were to function at any cost that you were willing to engage in open discrimination based on an arbitrary medical status. It's your fault you didn't stand up to the bullies. Where were you when thousands marched on the streets of Dublin month after month over the past 2 years, marching in the name of freedom, the freedom that would allow your business to operate the way it should? What did you think was going to happen? What good did you ever think was going to come from denying healthy, law-abiding people access to your premises? Has anything ever good come from that kind of segregation? What good did you think would come from obeying a government that has violated basic human rights of every Irish citizen in the country? How long did you think all the regulations and the COVID cert bollocks was going to go on for? So desperate you were to open at any cost that you would throw under the bus those who had marched for your rights and freedoms. We've been telling people not to comply, and that the government's power over their lives is achieved only through fear and terrorizing them and through their mass compliance. We told you that your compliance would never be enough. There would always be more regulations, more hoops to jump through, more lockdowns, just one more restriction to follow, one more rule, on and on and on. We told you that they were doing this to destroy the old economy and rebuild an entirely new one where small to medium businesses like yours have no place in. You surrendered your personal sovereignty and your right to the full proprietorship of your business to a state that has long ago sold us out to interests of a dangerous, evil and power-hungry cabal of globalist extremists who are seeking to enslave humanity in a digital population-controlled system. Now that your businesses are crippled, and you're now starting to understand that no amount of following the government regulations will ever be enough, what will you do next? Will you just allow your business that you worked so hard to build and maintain slowly die? Just like with those who complied with the jabs because they thought the government would leave them alone afterwards. They thought the government would place no more demands upon them. Has it been worth it? You can apparently still catch and pass on the deadly, deadly virus. The virus that has killed so many people, right? Sure, don't we all know someone who's died from COVID? Haven't we all lost count of the number of family members, friends, neighbours, old school friends, work colleagues of all ages who've passed away from COVID over the past 20 months? Hasn't the phone just never stopped ringing with bad news over the past 2 years? Haven't our local communities just been devastated with COVID deaths? Aren't we just tripping over the dead bodies in the streets on our way to the supermarkets, which have been one of the few businesses permitted to operate throughout all of the lockdowns and whose staff, for some reason, haven't been dropping like flies? Yeah, I don't know anyone who's died from it either. It's so strange. It's almost like nothing about the COVID narrative is real. It remains frustrating how few Irish people understand that a COVID case is simply qualified by a positive PCR test and doesn't mean that the person is sick, let alone dying in hospital. Fewer still understand that the very PCR system itself was never meant to be used as a diagnostic tool and is in fact a research tool, as outlined years ago by its creator Kary Mullis.